Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we're gonna start by getting on to installing my dry sump pump, make sure that fits. I know it doesn't, so I know what we have to do to fix that. I'll show you that here in a second. But I wanna get the dry sump pump on so I can start building a turbo system for this car. I've got most of the interior all figured out. I haven't made the right side of the tunnel yet, but that's going to be fairly easy. I kind of want to just move on to something a little more difficult, not so much difficult, but time consuming. That way I can really focus on getting the stuff that is going to be pressing done. The side of the tunnel, I can test the car without it. I can get it dyno tuned without it. So most of the stuff that I want to get done is just stuff that needs to get done for the car to at least make it to the dyno. So I'm gonna move on to getting the dry sump pump on the car and hopefully figure out some plumbing with it as well. The problem I got is this is a Motion Raceworks bracket, and that motor mount behind it is right in the way of the pump. The pump sits right here. Now I may have another issue, but I'm hoping some expensive fittings that I bought will work. So my biggest issue is this bracket. The pump is going to sit kind of roughly in here, but the back of it hits this bracket. So what I got to do, first off, I'm mounting the motor solid mounted. So I need to make solid motor mounts for that anyway. But instead of doing that, instead of having the motor mounts be there, I'm going to go up to the frame here. So what I'll do is I'll probably put a plate in the frame, build a bracket that goes from there to the plate, and I'll likely do the same on this side as well. What that'll allow me to do is drop the subframe out and leave the motor in place. So if anything happens, we wreck the car, we get in an accident, basically it allows the subframe to be able to be lowered if the subframe breaks, and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot that is easier done if the motor can stay connected in the car. So if I have to pop the pan for anything, it's much easier to drop the subframe and leave the motor in place. There's a lot of benefits to having the motor attached to the frame rails rather than attached to the subframe. So we're going to start by getting the motor mounts off. So I got to figure out a best way to keep the motor in its place. It's because my angles are good, and then go from there. All right, so everything's kind of loosely bolted in place, and this is my second issue that we are running into. Let's see if I can get enough light down here. See, this fitting right down here is hitting subframe. I've got a little bit of wiggle room here, but that's also belt adjustment. So if the belt gets loose, I'm gonna have to lower that, or if it's too tight, I'm gonna have to pick it up. So I've got to throw some fittings in this pump that I hope are gonna solve my issue. Let's see. Alrighty, so these are the fittings I'm hoping that are going to fix my issue. They are a dash 12 orb to banjo hose end. So it's dash 12 hose, dash 12 ORB, and it is a swivel fitting. So this allows me to swivel these fittings all around whichever direction I need, obviously within a limit. I can't obviously smack this one into this one past that. Same with that one. So the other thing these allow me to do is get the height I hopefully need because these are just a touch taller than that, than these fittings with the caps, and get in there without having a fitting off of these. So bolt the pump back in, see if these work. So fittings still hit, which after looking at it looked like it would anyway. I got a couple thoughts. One, build an adapter bracket to move this up, then machine this plate or this bracket down the thickness of my material so the pump stays in the stock location, because this is my hub for my ATI damper. It's got a cog for a drive belt for a pump, and it is lined right up with the pump. So pulley here, dialed. However, that's obviously not going to work with everything in the location it's in, because this hits, I've got no movement. So if you don't know anything about dry sump system, basically what dry sump system does is eliminates the oil pan that stores the oil. So it's just, you use a very small pan and then use a dry sump pump, which has multiple ports on it. There's all sorts of variations, 2-stage, 3-stage, 4-stage. They've got like all the way up to 7-stage, I think. Basically what it does is it's got a scavenge side, which the scavenge side sucks the oil out of your really thin pan. So any oil that is being drained out of the heads, out of the oil system down into the pan, gets sucked right up by that. So that does a couple of things. From what I've read, is it keeps oil off of your internal parts, which actually slows everything down, which is going to cause weight to change on your connecting rods and crank and everything. So it actually helps keep the motor a little more balanced. So it actually frees up, from what I understand, a little bit of horsepower. The oil in the pan is going to end up sloshing all over the place. It is going to just end up everywhere. So obviously that's going to end up on the crank, the connecting rods. Even with a windage tray, there's only so much you can do. But the biggest worry with running a regular, just wet sump type oil system is the sump actually going dry. From the oil slosh and everything, it can end up with a pickup tube not picking up oil. So dry sump system has a separate oil tank, and it sucks oil from that into the pump and then pumps it into the engine, and then returns oil out of the pan, which is the scavenge side, returns that back to the tank. So obviously we can store a lot more oil in the tank, as well as, instead of having it under the engine in a pan, we can only store 6 to 8 quarts essentially. In this chassis we can't store much more than 6 in a regular pan. So with a dry sump system, I've got a 3-gallon oil tank. That's going to keep my oil temps down, because we have a lot more volume, and the oil that we're storing is separate. So it's going to be able to stay a lot cooler, because we're not heat soaking the oil that is stored in the motor. We can run it through a cooler. It's got plenty of, we can make it so it has plenty of line, and then put it in a tank, and the tank should cool itself as well. So multiple advantages to go in dry sump. That's just a breakdown of what I've researched and what I know. So the pump I got is a Stock Car Products 3-stage pump. I bought it used. I got a pretty decent deal with that Motion Raceworks bracket. I sent it out to Stock Car Products. Guy's super easy to deal with. He went through the pump. I'm a little cheaper than what a brand new pump would be. It is pretty much a brand new pump at this point, but I'm still in it a little less than what a brand new pump would cost. So it's a 3-stage pump. So essentially each stage is a suction side, as you would think. There's 3 scavenge sides, or scavenge ports. So it's going to suck 2 out of the pan and then suck 1 from the tank. And that is what stages. So a 4-stage would have 3 suction lines. You could run 1 up to your head while your head's together, and then run 2 in the pan. You could 5-stage, you could run 1 to each head, 2 in the pan, or 3 in the pan, 1 to each head. So it's just each stage is a suction side of the oil pump essentially. So for all the research I did, the power I'm going to be at and everything, a 3-stage pump from what I'm doing should be plenty. Shouldn't have any issues with the 3-stage. So now I just got to figure out what direction I want to go. So I could modify that bracket, right? Or my other thought was to grind away at the subframe where this fitting is hitting. I'm more or less leaning towards building an adapter bracket, although there's more bolts. I could probably use bolts to align the bracket and then weld it on. But I'm not entirely sure the direction I want to go in yet. So I got some thinking to do, and I'll report back. All right, so I think I've got an idea as to what I want to do. So if I take the bottom hole and move it to the top hole on my bracket, this sitting vertical in the car lines up right on the outside of that. So center of that. So I'm thinking if I take a piece of aluminum round bar and run a mill through it and then cut it to length, I think it'll be able to slip over it. I'll be able to drill and tap a hole so it'll clamp in place, and then I can also weld it. So I think that's what we're going to try to do. I don't know what type of aluminum this is, so I don't know how it's going to weld, if it will weld, but I think that's my best shot at getting this bracket to work. So, and it makes it high enough where all of these clear and everything, so I think it'll work. Alrighty, so I got my little piece machined here. Can't take it out right now because it's locked in place, but I'm no machinist by any means, but it came out pretty good. I'm pretty stoked with it. With this snugged up, it fits perfectly. And the only thing I gotta do is drill out or tap that hole. I broke my 3/8 tap, so that sucks, but I'll machine a flat on here and then put a through bolt, and I'll probably end up trying to weld it as well. I'm not entirely sure what type of material it is, but I think that'd be the best bet. But it's machined flat, so it sits right up against this. This is pretty well locked in place. So this fits really nicely right in here. There's like no wiggle room. You can pretty much flip it upside down. So I'm pretty happy with it. Again, the quality, or the machine quality, probably isn't the greatest because I'm no machinist, but and did it on a manual mill, but definitely stoked with the fitment of it. It fits really nicely. So I'll get a tap in the morning and tap that hole, get this thing on, hopefully be good to go. All right, so now that I've got a good idea as to how this is gonna fit, now I can work with my hoses and make sure everything's gonna work the way I want it to. These hoses here are gonna be super short, so I may turn these, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, should work fine. So now I'm probably gonna start making some motor mounts now that I got the pump mounted and know exactly what I have for room on the block. All right, so a little problem I'm having with these hoses. This rear hose seems to be kind of fine. I need to take it off, but that would have enough room to get to that one with like a 3-inch hose. However, this front one literally is touching these. So I think what we're gonna have to do is I'm gonna probably get some 180s and I'll flip them and run them right up tight to the oil pan. So this will come out and run this way, and I'll loop the hoses so they come out down around the oil pan under the engine and then into the pump for the scavenge side. It's kind of the only thing I can think to do with this setup. Unfortunately just gonna have to work these hoses and where the pump location is. It's just too tight, so Unfortunately, it kind of is what it is. All right, so after much debate, I decided to keep the mounts, the factory mounts on the motor side, and I'm just gonna put a steel or a aluminum spacer in between the subframe and the mount. Doing this for a couple of reasons. I really wanted to go to the frame to make ease of access, getting the subframe out and working on it a little easier, but steering shaft is kind of right in the way. I mean, I could go around the steering shaft with a mount and go there and then build a plate, and then same on this side. This side it'd be really easy to do, but getting the frame mount to be able to unbolt so I could just completely remove it, have it be not adjustable, but have some wiggle room for, you know, different stuff, the frame flexing and stuff. It's gonna be kind of a pain in the butt and a lot of work versus, well, and then once I got this pump on, I kind of looked at it and realized that I got room. The pump's not going to hit that bracket, and then the only thing I had to do was put another one of those banjo fittings on my pan right here. So that banjo fitting, once that's threaded into the pan all the way, we'll have even more room, but I've got plenty now. So yeah, the pump is adjusted all as far down as it'll go, and it's not hitting that. So yeah, I'll just run the factory mounts and make a spacer to go in between the mounts. All right, so I went and picked the tap up this morning. So I'm going to tap this hole in this little bracket and then drill and tap the other hole once I get that located. Best way I've found to tap holes with a 3/8 gun, just run it in and out. Well, I'm sure all the machinists are cringing right now. But I have yet to have it be an issue. One thing I'm trying to do with this car is keep all the hardware the same. However, this bracket, they use 3/8 hardware. Everything on the car is going to be metric. So being is that this hardware is standard, I'm also going to make that bolt a standard bolt. This bolt should never really have to come out, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. But we're going to drill through this with a pilot, and then I'm going to drill this side of this bracket and this bracket straight through, and then we're going to tap this side here. So through bolt, and we'll Loctite it in so it can't move. Be good to go. All right, so modified Motion Raceworks bracket is good to go. So I can now, that's all, that bolt's Loctited in and everything. It ain't going nowhere. Sits nice and flush against the bracket. Pretty stoked with the way that little thing came out. So yeah, I can bolt this on the motor when I'm ready for it completely. But for right now, we still need different fittings and hoses. So I'll bolt this back on when I go to put the motor mounts in, make sure that everything clears. But this is good to go. So got these solid motor mount bushing replacements, take place of those old garbage rubber ones. Got those in. They look nice, so pretty stoked with that. Now probably going to put the booster delete on to see what I got for clearance here on this header. See if I gotta modify this header at all. If I've got to do that, then I'll have to figure that out. But these headers look used because they are. They were on an old truck that I had that I was planning on doing a turbo setup on, never did. And so I ended up pulling them off, did long tubes, and then ended up getting rid of the truck. But yeah, I'm gonna get that booster delete on from FDF and check it out. Beautiful. All right, so I've got a Wheelwood Master put on this. Probably what I'm going to end up running would be a Master very similar to this. So I wanted to just check to see what I had for clearance here on the header. It's definitely tight, but I'll end up wrapping the whole header anyway, and then we'll end up building a heat shield to go here. So it should work out just fine. So I'm pretty happy about that. I don't need to modify the header at all. Saves me some time. These are just cheap, like turbo up and forward turbo headers off of, you know, eBay or Amazon or whatever. They're not the greatest of headers, but they're 304 stainless. They should work just fine for what I'm doing. And then if I do have a failure, they're cheap to replace. So I'm probably going to whack off these flanges now and weld new V-bands on a little further back. But I got to figure out a game plan. So yeah. All right, so after much deliberation, I think what is going to happen is I'm going to pull everything out of the interior and get the harness bar, the dash bar, and the intrusion plates done tomorrow. That way, oh, and my little dimple die-day pillar gussets that I'm going to make as well, because I need to get the interior painted so I can start putting stuff back in it. I want to get all of that stuff done and then paint the interior. That way I can start wiring and plumbing the inside of it. So I think that's the plan tomorrow. Either that or I'm going to try to fit the front end on it. The only problem is I don't have the tube that I'm going to do the front end out of yet. So I really can't do it. Because I need the front end on it so I can see where the turbo can sit and everything, downpipe, all that. So I'm not sure yet. I got a lot of thinking to do, but for now, I'm gonna call it a day. All right, so I'm back. So goal is to get the interior out, bend up a dash bar, bend up a harness bar, and start getting this thing ready to get the inside painted. I've got to build a bracket to mount my cooler as well, because that's going to go on the passenger side by the door bar. Get some more right side weight out of it and keep stuff out of my way. And also, yeah, so I still got to close on the right side of the tunnel. Still got a few things to do, but we're going to get hammering on this, hopefully get everything square. Alrighty, so I got the dash bar all bent up in place. Pretty stoked with how it came out. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do to bolt the factory column to it. There's a little bit of a gap here. I might try to nut cert it, not entirely sure yet. Maybe I'll build a little plate, but it's yeah, it fits pretty good. Stoked with it. So I'm gonna burn that in now and get going on the harness bar. Alright, so I got that side welded, this side mostly welded. I've got to figure out how I'm mounting this column now. I think I'm just going to stick some 1/4-inch plates in between there with a hole drilled and tapped, and then weld it to the cage. Seems the best way to do it. It really doesn't need to be done, I don't think. Looking at other people's Corvette builds, they cut those off, but I don't know. The whole pedal box and everything is going to want to twist. And the fiberglass, the firewall is only fiberglass, and then this is only mounted up here, so... And I think I definitely want that supported. So I'm gonna probably grab some 1/4-inch plate, punch some holes in it, drill some hole, tap some holes, and then get the plates stuck up in there and welded. Right, so I cut out some little tabs, drilled them to a M6, or tapped them to an M6, and bolted them on, tacked them. So now when I pull the column out, I can finish weld those all up. I've still got to weld across the transmission tunnel and finish weld that. So dash bar is pretty much complete other than some finishing welding. I still have to make the harness bar, make my gussets here, and weld tabs on for my emergency stop button and my fire suppression pole. So I still got a good amount to do. I'm out of time for today. That dash bar kicked my butt, so unfortunately, I didn't get nearly as much as I wanted to today, but that's all right. I'll try to plug away on it during the week a little bit. So I want to say thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys are enjoying the videos. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that. If there's anything you want to see, please leave a comment. That'd be great. Peace out.